Welcome again. Thank you for staying with us here on the Oxfam Tax Dialogue. If you are listening to us on radio, this is 97.3 CTFM. On TV, the channel is Channel 1 TV. I am me, Lati. In our last episode, we spoke about progressive tax. Today, we are building up the conversation, looking at another aspect of the tax architecture of the country. And today, we are talking about high net worth. We are talking about high net worth individuals who fall under that category and what their role is when it comes to taxation in Ghana. My guests, one lady and one gentleman, one from the Ministry of Finance and one from Budget at Ghana. On my immediate left is Jennifer Moffat from Budget at Ghana, as well as Daniel Noah from the Ministry of Finance. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm beginning with Daniel from the Ministry of Finance. Last time we met on this particular platform, it was about progressive taxation. Correct me if I'm wrong. If this high net worth we are talking about is a build-up to the category of taxation known as progressive tax. That's the first point I want to understand.
Okay.
If yes or no, who are high worth net individuals?
Okay. So, high net worth individuals or high net worth taxation actually goes on progressive law. And the idea is that general taxation, the more you earn, the more you pay. So that's basically what it is. Now, for purposes of Ghana, we define a high net worth individual as someone who who earns income, okay, of at least $1 million US. That's the first thing. And so, if he earns the equivalent of that in cedis in any year, that person is considered to be high net worth. And then we also have another definition where we look at someone who has assets worth the same $1 million equivalent in Ghana cedis. And so you realize that we've looked at it from two aspects. From when it comes to actual amount of money you have, and then where you have assets, it means that we value those items and put them together and get so the assets could be money, and then that's money, cash, whatever form it is in the bank, and then properties and other things like that. So generally that's how we look at it.
So if any Ghanaian has $1 million in his or her account, or the CD equivalent of it, or in assets amounting to that particular value, that person can be considered as a high net worth individual in Ghana.
Yes.
Two quick points. Why the dollar comparison? Why we are in Ghana? Why are we not getting an amount of money fixed in, Ghana cedis, but dollar and its equivalent? And these assets you talk about, what kind of assets? Are we talking about liquid assets, current assets, non-current assets? And does it also take into consideration the liabilities of this particular individual?
Okay. So first, the dollar is to allow us to do international comparisons.
Right.
Because the high net worth individual, yes, we've always had wealth taxes.
Right.
But in terms of measuring it, we haven't moved to that part yet. And so in doing so, we wanted to see some equivalence that gives us a general international good practice. International good practice, really how high should we put it? So that's what led to our deciding to use the dollar measure. So it's not just wealth tax measure, and that's why we said it's the equivalent in Ghana cedi. So we look at the Ghana cedi equivalent of it, and then we met. Fortunately, our currency fluctuates, so that's one of it. Now, when we talk about the assets, so sometimes it's not just your own assets, but if you have the assets of associates,
right.
So you might have a building yourself, but you have another building in the name of a child of yours, okay, who basically you provided that money for the person to do that. The person doesn't earn the kind of income to have gotten that money. Or an associate, or someone you have some control over, or you have some business. So I'm a sole proprietor, and I have income from that business, or some assets in that business, which as an individual it still falls within my purview. So generally that's the general idea of looking at it. So it's your own assets. It could be buildings, it could be liquid cash as you mentioned, whatever asset it is. And normally it's what in the tax law will look at as investment income. So So an investment can be in treasury bills, it can be in fixed securities, any amount you have.
So wherever the money is, wherever the asset is, whatever form and shape it is, once it amounts to $1 million or the CD equivalent, you are a high net worth individual.
For purposes of Ghana.
And fall in that category. Yes. But having laid that foundation, let me go to Jennifer. Why do these persons matter when it comes to taxation in Ghana and across the world?
They matter a lot, and I would say a lot because they control significant amounts of money. So a lot of people will argue that maybe that shouldn't be, but then they are controlling so much money that we have to talk about wealth redistribution. So the whole concept of taxing them extra or going back to tax certain individuals again will be because of wealth redistribution. People want the wealth to go around. It shouldn't be concentrated at one particular place. There should be more to it than just having a group of people controlling so much wealth. So that is the reason. So
with this wealth redistribution that you talk about, I don't know if you can explain to us how the individuals are first identified, how are they located, how are they profiled, how does all of this happen before we get to ascertain that this particular person falls within this bracket?
This one is a long process.
So don't worry. Simplify it.
Mr. Noel mentioned certain criteria when he was giving his explanation. So first of all, how would you identify them? You should have at least that exceeds 1 million USD. So if you're able to put your money from your bank account, money from your business, money from your buildings, real estate, all those things together. Even when you have shares that can be converted into money, all those things, you put them together. Then we can say that is how we can find it. But then how would you locate them, or how did you profile them? There's a lot of ways, and I think GRE has a lot of indicators that they use for that, which even includes even you filing your taxes. If you are able to file your taxes as you are doing that, you are able to identify that this number of people fall within this bracket, and then there are things that they have to do, maybe push them into a particular category and all that. And I think income tax laws also identify such individuals, and I think one of them would be that if you are able to earn more than I think 240,000 Ghana cedi, automatically they push you into the bracket where you are a high income earner. So then your taxation is done differently from those of us who are earning something small.
So it's either you are identified or you file for you to be identified. But do people file for them to be identified?
I think Mr. Noel was explaining earlier that at the back that these things are not, when you are even being profiled, it's not because they want to take your money from you. I think that's a concept that we need to debunk. Some of these things are done for the purposes of taxation, but not to take so much from you. But like I said earlier, wealth has to be redistributed. And I think there is, I was having a discussion with Mr. Noel backstage, and he was even mentioning that there's a whole movement that is actually pushing for redistribution of wealth. So when you are identified, it is good because wealth has to go around. It shouldn't be concentrated at one place and it's not being used.
From Jennifer's submission, Daniel was giving you a lot of information back in. Now the floor is open. Daniel, give us the information. What is your general thought around, the identification and profiling of these individuals?
Okay. The first thing, in fact, I would like to use the actual words I use. Say that wealth taxation is not a witch hunt.
It is not a
witch hunt.
Witch hunting.
Yes, it's not witch hunting. It's generally in terms of the equities that are involved in taxation.
So trying to break that dramatic inequality gap.
Not even the inequality gap, but as we talked about progressive taxation, the more you earn, the more you have, the more you pay. So it's the basic principle of taxation. And in fact, you try to identify everybody and get them to pay their fair share of taxes. So that's one of the things. Now, in Ghana, as I said, in identifying them, we have some additional criteria. So we look at your ownership of some, either a large taxpayer, tax company entity. We have the chief executives of some of these large entities. We'll look at your ownership of an entity that has either an aviation license, an internet license, a communications license, and also, for example, we also look at the top companies on the Ghana stock exchange. Those who have the large, maybe 10% or more holding in some of these individuals. So those are just a few of the criteria. There's quite a long list that we use to do the profiling, but these are just a few. And the idea is that these people actually are the ones who fall within that category.
But within that particular bracket, are there still thresholds or other categories? So, for example, if I have $1 million, somebody has $2 million, another person has, let's say, $5 million. I think somewhere around the world they are classified high net worth, very high net worth, ultra high net worth. Is it the same case for Ghana? Or once you have the 1 million, but we lump everyone together?
Not really. I mean, we also use those classifications. Okay. But then, because we hover more around the $1 million and then the $20 million. So we have a few or two who will fall within the $20. Per the records we have right now. It's, as we continue to refine and to get people to file returns, it gives us an idea. Now, a quick one, when it comes to the issue of wealth taxes, as you mentioned, I said, is the idea, wealth taxes have always existed. If I want to talk about net worth taxation, it's always existed. It's equivalent to the incomplete records in accounting. So, again, I want to just take off people's minds that there's a witch hunt. It's just part of the normal process of taxation.
And what I will add is the inequality gap is real. So when we are talking about taxation or progressive taxation, we shouldn't take our mind off the fact that some of these taxes or tax regimes comes in because there is an inequality gap. I think I was even having a discussion with a friend over the weekend, and he made mention that some people have so much money because they've taken so much from other people and they stored it in a place where they can't even finish spending it. So if we are doing redistribution, it's because it's identified or we've all come to the realization that there's an inequality and there's something that must be done about it.
How you quickly jumped in tells me how passionate you are about the topic and this inequality. But this is still the Oxfam Tax Dialogue on 97.3 CTFM and Channel 1 TV. I am Lee Latte. I'm having this conversation with Jennifer Moffat from Budget Ghana, as well as Dana Noah from the Ministry of Finance. We are taking a short break. We'll be back with more.
Love is in the air, and it's time to put your heart to the test. It's your boo. Well, even your boo will get a boo. This Valentine's season, tune in to Love in the City with me, Noyo Korte, on Brunch in the City on 97.3 City FM. From February 5th to 14th every day, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., I will be giving you the chance to test the love and commitment of your special somebody. Planning a surprise, confessing your love, or testing your partner's loyalty. Love in the City will make this Valentine's unforgettable. It's your boo. Love in the City. Let's put love to the test. Only on 97.3 City FM.
Girl, I want to give you a special treat. You're so sweet. Turn off the lights and let's get cozy.
Thanks for staying on the Oxfam Tax Dialogue on 97.3 CTFM and Channel 1 TV. I am me, Lati. We are still continuing our conversation on high net worth taxation. This is part of the 2025 season of the Oxfam Tax Dialogue. Two basic ideas here, trying to create the awareness and educate the populace about their responsibilities when it comes to taxation. The conversation has taken different legs. We have more to come, but this is the second in series, building up from our previous episode on progressive tax. Today, we are dedicating it to high net worth taxation. Jennifer and Daniel already doing a fantastic job here on this platform. Let me yield back to them. So, I want us to do a very quick exercise, trying to get a sense of, how far we have come with, high net worth taxation. From the Ministry of Finance perspective, I don't know, have there been reforms? In fact, how did we even get here in the first place? Is it that other countries were doing it that we also decided to jump on? Or really there was a lacuna or problem we wanted to fix, for which reason we also decided to have this kind of taxation as part of our tax lines in Ghana?
Okay. We had several antecedents. One, as you mentioned, there was a move actually in tax circles to sort of group people into categories in order to best design compliance activities and how to get them to pay their taxes. So as part of the categorization, we have small taxpayers, we have medium taxpayers. The issue came up with the large taxpayers too, and not just as entities but as individuals too, as to how best to categorize them and help them to be compliant. Basically, that's the job. Now, as part of that, we looked at our reforms, and the reforms started prior to 2015. But then in 2015, as part of the GRA Second Strategic Plan, it was looked at to improve work when it comes to highness. At the same time, the Ministry of Finance also looked at it, so it was a joint effort that let's put in the policy perspective and then put in the units to do. There was some work already being done. So some studies were undertaken to several countries. We did a lot of literature reviews to look at what was happening elsewhere. That helped us to come out with our definition, to prepare the policy paper, initial policy paper, which we worked on with the GRA. And for all these, really, the ministry always works very closely with the Ghana Revenue Authority. I'm using GRA just for everyone to know that it's not the Ghana Revenue Authority, but the Ghana Revenue Authority. Okay. So we work with the Ghana Revenue Authority closely on these things, so that at the end of the day, when we are translating the policy into implementation, it works well. And then when the suggestion comes from GRA we also look at it at the policy aspect. How does it work out? So basically, we worked hand in hand over this since 2016 when it came out as part of the strategic plan. And actually, with the medium-term revenue strategy, which we launched in 2023, it also talks about deepening work when it comes to high net worth individuals. And it's a worldwide issue. Just last year, the G20, when they met, put it as one of the top agendas to look at that. So basically,
it's good you mentioned the medium-term revenue strategy, having started from 2023, right?
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong. That's 2023, right?
Yes.
Like
it started in 2024. It was published in 2023
and
started in
2025. Also, I can just
2024.
We are just 1 year into it.
Yes, we are just 1 year.
How far have we come? Relating it to high net worth, because you mentioned that it's a key component of the revenue strategy.
Okay. So what we did in 2024 was there was some work which was commissioned earlier on for work to be done on high net worth in 2021. We commissioned a further one to be done to look at the potential of high net worth in 2024, which was part of this, to look at what the potential was going forward. So that was the first phase. We are now reviewing that report to look at what the next phase will be in taxing high net worth.
Talk about potential. I don't know if the potential can also be seen as projection, as in how much you wanted to raise with regards to high net worth taxation. Is that a fair point?
So how much we could raise?
How much we could raise?
Yes.
Can you put a figure to it?
As I said, the report has just come. We are now reviewing the report, and based on that, we can now. The initial studies we did helped us to start the work with the unit and get some of these things in place, because it gives us some potential.
Okay.
We've done some amount of recoveries over the past 2 years and over 500 million cedis in recoveries from that time from. And let's remember, some of these were already paying tax, so it's not as if they are come back. Then we categorize them as high network. That's what we're seeing, and we expect to do far more than that.
I wanted to believe that we ran away from the figures, but now that you've mentioned about 500 million in recoveries, I'll come back to you. Yes. If you can tell me how many high net individuals we have in Ghana and paint that picture for us, but I want to come to Jennifer for her to give you a take on, the historical antecedents. I don't know if you have one or two to add on. Then Mr. Noah will tell me about the number of high net individuals you have in Ghana. I think it's going to be an interesting figure.
Very interesting.
Okay. Projections on that as well. So I think the only thing I'll add to what Mr. Noah said is I think in 2017, part of the strategic plan, the second strategic plan for January, there's actually a whole office or unit that has been opened for high net worth individuals. That's
at the ministry or the GRA?
At the GRA. So it's not as if it is new. So since 2017, works are being done, people are being profiled. We are still getting more information about who is who, what they are doing,
how they are still getting information.
Yes, we are because it's progressive. No, it's because it's progressive. So data that is out there says that at least we've been able to come. I think there has been an increment of 36% more. So more people are now classified as high net worth individuals. So imagine through all this economic meltdown, people were still making it. So it is good to add them to the bracket so that we can take more money from them.
I see. Now that we know that people were still making money during the economic quagmire. So I was saying that you should be able to give us some figures when it comes to the number of high net worth individuals that we have in the country, what their contribution have been over the past years. I don't know if it's something that can't easily achieve.
Okay, so let's put it this way. Now, when we looked at the report and did the projections based on the 2017 report, and then we looked at the recent 2020 African Wealth Tax report, they put the number of high net worth individuals in Ghana as 2,400, and then the 20 millionaires as 5. Okay, that was the 2020 after all that. But when we look at our records, and if you look at the 2021 GRA report, basically we are doing about half of that number cumulatively as at 2024. Okay, and it takes time to identify this. And as we looked at the criteria we used, you realize that it takes a while to build up that book. And interesting is that there are some of these wealthy people who really haven't put their wealth together. So you actually have to put it together and build that profile to be able to determine that this person falls within that category. Then you now go ahead and do an assessment. So really, it's getting the information based. The reports, international reports, give us an idea. As I say, we just done some reports ourselves, which we are looking at, and because that one also has some projections, and then based on that, we will start working on some of these things. As I said, it's not. I repeat, it is not a witch hunt. It's part of our normal process, and so you want to be sure that if you are saying this person is high net worth, the person really is high net worth. You don't want just to lump a lot of people in there. I mean, you are worrying people.
I don't know why Jennifer keeps laughing, but we are wrapping up. We are wrapping up, but anytime we have a conversation on taxation, compliance comes to play. Okay, so two quick questions, one each. I want to believe that the collaboration between the Ministry of Finance and the GRA is smooth in terms of all the processes. Maybe you may speak more on it, and then we also have to identify some of the challenges being faced both by the payer and the collector, and how we can address these issues. I don't know who wants to take which question.
The reason why people would, or even if I, Jennifer, am an high net worth individual, I want to avoid paying some of this money is because I wouldn't know exactly what those monies are being used for. So now we come back to what are some of the pitfalls. Some of the pitfalls is that people cannot identify what the monies are being used for. So it is easy for them to avoid or evade taxes. I think we also have the the tax agents also playing a very big role in this whole system, where people rather put their money somewhere that they know that the government can't stretch their hands to that place to go and take from them. Aside that, even I think GRE itself would also have issues because this whole profiling thing, so administrative wise, this whole profiling thing is not going to be easy. I don't think it's even easy. Mr. Noel can attest to that, whether it is easy or not. But it will take a while to be able to identify. For instance, you said earlier that some people even have their monies in different places that they don't even know. So for us to be able to identify that, we should be able to, GRE should be enforced more or empowered to do more.
Jennifer has even answered your question.
I didn't answer.
Because she's talking about empowering, the Ghana Revenue Authority to do more. But Mr. Noah, just 30 seconds, your final take on this whole conversation. You can pick it up from any of the angles we discussed.
Okay. So I believe that there's a lot of work we still need to do when it comes to our network, in terms of education, of even the persons themselves. Because one, they keep poor records. Their issues are complex. Some of them are very influential.
Yeah.
So there are a number of factors that make dealing with them difficult. What GRE has done, in the sense that right now GRE makes payments and file online and make payments online. So it's simple. You don't have to walk into a GRE to do any of these things. Just to make it easier in terms of compliance for everybody, not just signatories. So I believe that as we go and as the conversation continues, we expect that we would sort out some of the issues concerning them and then bring them also on board, as we also bring the rest of the citizens on board, because it is not just the high net worth individuals who don't pay. In fact, the majority of individuals in this country do not pay income tax. I'm talking about not other indirect taxes, but income tax. And I think it's important that we all contribute. So, the minister has talked about compliance. It is very, he was very much on it. And so it's one of the direction we're going to see, get everybody. So please, all individuals. And this one, we are not going to pay city for that. All individuals are required to file their tax returns by the 30th of April this year for the previous year. Please file. Because there's a penalty of 500 cedis if you don't file.
Please file. The concluding words of Mr. Daniel Noah from the Ministry of Finance. He was here with Jennifer Moffat from Budget to Ghana. And so thank you so much for being a part of this edition of the Oxfam Tax Dialogue on High Net Worth Taxation. I am me, Lati. The next time we meet, we'll be talking about illicit financial flows. Thank you very much for listening and watching.
Mention one symbol on the coat of arms.
Star.
What does it mean?
Star means bright. Then we have eagle too on the coat of arms.
Okay. What does it mean too?
Eagle, which means Ghana we can fly.
I believe I can fly.
We can move forward.
That's what is we are moving forward. Hey, but you be very deep, But then if you be part of those that write the things, Anna.
No. Then we have stew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about it.
About the stew, which means Ghana.
We can sit down.
Yes. We can sit down. Then we can get proper person who can sit on the stool so that he can rule Ghana.
I'm gonna change a true story of the world, baby.
That's the meaning for the stool.
Yes.
This is DW News, and these are our top stories. Israel says it has begun preparations for the departure of large numbers of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip, just a day after U.S. President Donald Trump suggested that the U.S. take over Gaza. Trump's comments have been condemned and rejected by international leaders, with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warning against ethnic cleansing. Rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo have seized another town in the east despite declaring a ceasefire days ago. The rebels, backed by Rwanda, are closing in on Bukavu, the capital of South Kivu province. They captured the key city of Goma last week. UN officials say nearly 3,000 people were killed. The Greek island of Santorini has been shaken by another in a series of earthquakes. Thousands of residents have fled after a wave of seismic activity hit the island. Although Santorini sits on top of a volcano, experts say the recent tremors are not related to volcanic activity, but to tectonic plate movements. This is DW News from Berlin. You can get more news on our website at dw.com. Palestinian National Authority. Madam Minister, it's good to have you with us. Before we talk about geopolitics and the Palestinian Authority, I want to ask you as a Palestinian, what went through your mind when you heard about U.S. President Trump's proposal that the U.S. take over the Gaza Strip?
Outrage and utter unacceptable